Well, I really thought that we were going to get into Uni's backstory, but man, that took a turn for the worst.
Yeah, let's talk about Dungeons & Dragons, the cartoon, Episode 4, Valley of the Unicorn. Welcome to Nerdarchy, for nerds, by nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Dave, and today I'm hanging out, as usual, with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Hey, maybe this is your first time hanging out in Ted's basement here. Well, it's a place where we like to discuss news, views, and homebrews for 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons. Sometimes we talk about other role-playing games.
So if you don't want to miss a single video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and attune to that notification bell.
So we're going to break down Episode 4, Valley of the Unicorns, Dungeons & Dragons cartoon, and kind of like, how you folks can use this to make your D&D game better, lessons we can learn.
Look for inspiration, if you will.
Absolutely. So it starts off right from the bat. Our animal companion, NPC, henchman, hireling, whatever you want to consider Uni, is distressed because something's bothering Uni, something's going on. And that is Uni detects or hears, maybe even, the only one that passed our perception check.
Or just magically senses that, another unicorn is in danger.
Yes. So Uni comes running to the rescue. The rest of our adventuring party follows, and there is a unicorn being menaced by a pack of wolves.
So the cool thing that we have here is you can take away a magical connection. You can have where something that a character feels or senses actually is pertaining to whatever you want your plot to be. Maybe you're hearing, a family member's voice, maybe you just have that uneasy feeling in your stomach and it's like, all right, I think I need to do something here. And you can use that as the GM, as a tool to get the characters motivated in a certain direction.
Well, not only that too, you also have the use of an NPC. So for instance, a beast companion, it becomes not just a tool for the ranger in your D&D game, but a tool for the dungeon master who can then, kind of take some agency with that NPC and lead to more adventure.
Absolutely. We see that these wolves are being directed, if you will, by, this evil wizard. And I mean, in the early days of D&D, everything was perpetrated by an evil wizard. So why not? He's trying to capture this unicorn. And because the characters are so focused on, this other unicorn and Uni...
And not getting eaten by wolves.
And not getting eaten by wolves, they really actually don't see the wizard in any way. And this could have been done in your game with an invisibility spell or something to... still have him hidden to use as a plot device later on.
Or he could just hide behind a bush like he did in the cartoon. So Calic is hiding behind the bush, and he sees an opportunity because now there's not one unicorn but two, and he also instantly comes up with a whole new plot based on this scenario. And it kind of goes to show like how smart that NPC was because he puts it together like that. He's got a cool giant wolf mount, bigger than all the other wolves. And it actually seems like he's bonded with that wolf, and that wolf is the one that is controlling the pack.
Right.
So that's kind of cool. So they rescue the unicorn, but in the process, he kidnaps or captures Uni, using the threat to the other unicorn as kind of like a distraction, knowing and kind of making it easy for the adventuring party to follow him back to his lair.
And that's exactly what it winds up becoming, because you have this crux of, well, that's my NPC companion. I'm absolutely going to do everything I can to save it. So you have that as a GM. You have that tool that you can use to make sure that your players come to rescue that NPC that they know and love.
Absolutely. And Ted, what is a tool that I like to use in my games?
What's that?
I like to use Easy Roller Dice. Easy Roller Dice, whether it's your first set of dice or your 1 millionth set of dice, for all your dice rolling needs. We want to thank them for sponsoring this video. Down in the description, as always, you can find a link to Easy Roller Dice /Nerdarchy, as well as a one-time coupon code for a whopping 20% off. You can help support the channel by supporting the sponsor. They've got great metal dice, they've got dice cups, they've got dice bags, they've got dice trays, they got dice everything. If you want to roll good, go over to Easy Roller Dice and get yourself some dice and dice accessories.
All right, so obviously when the characters go to rescue Uni, they find that, Calic has actually gone and, begun talking about, what it is that his plan is. Now, obviously, in your game, you wouldn't have this without some kind of scrying method, but he's got a shrine that's got a whole bunch of unicorn horns in it, and he's got this plan that he's going to take the horns from all the unicorns and use their powers of teleportation to be able to help him defeat Venger, and he will become the master.
Yeah, I mean, that's really cool, because we see this cool ritual that gets enacted, and like one of the things the players could try and do is disrupt it. But before we even get to that, though, we also get an interlude from the Dungeon Master, as we are apt to do, and we get our episode riddle, of course, but we also, not only do we get our episode riddle, but we also get like a piece of advice from Dungeon Master that kind of comes up later and then sparks, Presto's idea of a way to kind of trying to defeat Calic. Because one of the things that Calic does is, of course, he's an evil guy, evil wizard. So he does a little bit of monologuing, and then he's like, well, I'll finally have the power to defeat Venger. I will be even more powerful than him. Which one of the knowledge bombs Dungeon Master drops is, people change. Sometimes your enemies can even be your ally, and that gives Presto an idea of what he wants to do, later on in the adventure.
Absolutely. So when Calic winds up taking the horn, he does it through magical means, and it teleports the horn off of, Uni, and it appears within the shrine. And Uni changes from this, beautiful white coat, horse into, gray, and he looks more like a donkey at this point in time. It looks like they overhaul him entirely visually, as opposed to just changing the color.
Yeah, well, it just sucks out the vibrance and makes him kind of gloomy. The otter is really cool. It's got a ton of arms in it. Each one is holding or has a place for a unicorn horn. That's kind of cool. It's magically protected, so they can't get at it easily. So, prior to this, Presto actually splits the party, right? He goes away from everyone
It wasn't necessarily by choice. I think he was trying to summon Venger, and he wound up being teleported to Venger.
Well, sometimes it doesn't go exactly the way you want it. He wants to get a hold of Venger because he wants to bring Venger in on it so that they can use him as an ally. He's like, well, if he finds out that Calic's double-crossing him, then he's going to help us defeat him, and it seems like a good plan. But kind of before they even get to that, right, something else happens, and that is Calic tricks them, right? Once again, and basically they free the unicorns, and Uni, like you said, after the color was all bleached out and the horns are stolen, and he kind of alludes to, I'm going to get the rest of the horns.
Right.
But he's not. He uses the party to follow them back to the hidden Valley of the Unicorns.
And hence we get to the title, Valley of the Unicorns.
Exactly. And that's when he actually does capture the rest of the unicorns to bring back to his evil lair. Can we talk about the evil lair for a moment, too?
We can talk about the evil lair.
He raises it from the ground. It looks awesome. It's got these huge cathedral ceilings that, it's beyond cathedral, really. They're so tall. They're honeycombed with lots of hidey holes for your adventurers to hide and spy on you. But not only that, it just looks cool. And that's where he ends up going to enact the ritual.
So to me, it kind of reminds me of, those new spells from Xanathar's Guide, or new, quote unquote, where, the high level spell that allows you to summon a fortress or a temple, if you will, depending upon whether you're going cleric or wizard. So did he cast Mighty Fortress? Was there something else going on? It seems like he's looking for powers of teleportation. So he's probably not high enough to cast Mighty Fortress, but that's what it reminded me of.
Well, it might not be that he can't cast, teleportation. It might just be that, he wants even more powers of teleportation, to do it all the time. And it's kind of cool, too, because in this episode, we see the unicorns teleport. We see Uni try and use his power for the first time. And he does, but he doesn't get very far. And that's when Calic informs us and Uni that, well, you can only use that ability once a day. So, I mean, all the little D&D isms that are kind of in there are fun and cool throwbacks to the actual game. Obviously, unicorns are a little bit different in 5th edition than AD&D, but that's fine.
Absolutely. we can take away, this magical altar could absolutely be a thing. We take away that, in this verse, there's only so many unicorns. And at that point, what is there, like 5 left that, he's trying to get for? It's utterly crazy. But that gives you a catalyst for, if you're going to be running adventures like this, that's important knowledge. And, you've got 4 unicorns left in the world. What are you going to do when something happens to those?
In this one, it's the last unicorn herd. So that might be different. Like there might be more, but this is the last herd of unicorns. So where they're gathered in one group, which makes it easier for them to protect themselves, as well as easier for Calic to capture them all together. I will say, though, their leader of the unicorns, Silvermane,
is awesome.
Yeah, he was pretty friggin' impressive. Yeah, he was trashing the wolves, actually. They were having a hard time with them. I don't know how well he would have fared if Calic would have entered the fray earlier, but against the wolves, it was kind of no contest. When the kids showed up, it was kind of overkill, but that left everyone distracted, and Calic was able to do his evil deeds. That kind of brings us to, when they get to the final confrontation, they've taken everyone's horn but Silvermane's at this point, but all the horn unicorns have been captured. Presto, like we said, it split from the party, got to Venger, convinced Venger to help them, because he's like, all right, well, I'll help you guys, because this guy needs to be smacked down for one. And then also I'm going to take all your magic items, and I'm going to get the unicorns. Everything's coming up Venger today.
So obviously, this is a kid's cartoon show. So all of Venger's plans do not go the way it's supposed to. Venger gets into a fight with Calic.
That brings us to our last, our riddle from earlier too that we haven't discussed yet.
Well, we haven't gotten there yet.
Yeah, well, okay.
All right. So they wind up fighting. The altar winds up getting destroyed in the fight. I think it was a little bit of a trick that happened, because both of them wanted the altar to stay alive, but they were so focused on the fight with each other. The fortress winds up, starting to fall. Everybody flees, and this is where the riddle comes into play. It's like they're looking to try and restore the horns, to the unicorns.
Yeah, well, it's in the final stages of the battle. Things are going badly for Calic, and the kids want to flee, but they also have to fix the unicorns first. So Presto tries to do it with magic, fails the first attempt, but then they remember the riddle.
The fate of one shall be shared by all.
Right, so they realize they just need to restore one unicorn horn, and they all come back. And then they're like, oh, let's get out of here on the unicorns and teleport away. At this point, Venger has defeated Calic. So Presto's plan of using one enemy against the other has worked. It's kind of a common theme throughout the show. Also, I found like one of the cool things, I don't know if you caught it, but to me it seemed like an Easter egg. When Calic is defeated by Venger, he's imprisoned in this ball, this sphere, and sucked into the ground. That very much, to me, screams the imprisonment spell.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, that's so awesome.
So I was looking at, is it imprisonment? Was it soul cage? Yeah, that's where I was going.
Well, one of the features of imprisonment is one of them is literally entombed in the earth. So that's where I'm going with it. His fortress begins to shake and is falling apart. And Venger's like, yes, without his power here to sustain it, it cannot last. Because Venger always explains it. But the kids are able to, all get on unicorns and teleport out. And then we see what we've seen before. Whenever you think Venger has been defeated and destroyed and been buried beneath some building or another, the thing that has happened once again. It is the evil demon wizard guy, nuclear mushroom cloud. Seems to be a reoccurring thing now, since we've seen it a couple times.
So, he comes out. We know that, all right, well, clearly Venger hasn't been defeated. If this were, written, I think, in today's thing, like, it would end on the cliffhanger of, is Venger defeated or not? And, we'd find out in, several episodes. But here, nope, they got to let you know right off the bat. Nope, Venger's still around.
Yeah. So definitely that's there. They managed to get the unicorns back to where they belong. There's a little bit of back and forth as to whether or not Uni's going to stay or come with them and stay with the adventurers. So, I mean, I feel like there was a lot of takeaways from this. One was, the clever use of the Beast Companion to tie into a session or two of adventuring, which was awesome. Again, we're going to reiterate the riddles and the lessons that are kind of taught in the game. So the cartoon does a really good job of doing that every episode so far.
I think another thing that you can easily take away is that whole point of using an enemy as an ally. I don't think that happens a lot in, current D&D sessions. And that's a point where you could be able to gain more information if you were to arrange such a thing. I think it could be a lot of fun. That's like, all right, we're going to get this person who we really don't like to help us. And in so doing, we can then observe them in battle and possibly learn something. I think that's what I would try and do. We get to learn, different things about the world and how you can, while the story is going, you can put things like the number of unicorns that are left or the last unicorn herd and fill out your world in a story aspect while you're writing the adventure.
So going back to using the NPC enemy as an ally, I think as a GM, this is an awesome tool, but from a different angle. This gives you a chance for the players not to only learn about the enemy, gives them a chance to gain more insight into the enemy. And that to me is far more important. The fact that you can use that to maybe paint a human face upon them and really for your players to learn that this character is multidimensional. They're more than just a bad guy. Maybe they have friends, they have family. You can use this to maybe try and even garner some sympathy for the villain from your players. Maybe your villain does terrible things, but maybe there's a good reason for it, even if it doesn't justify what they're doing. I think it's a huge opportunity for the DM to really get some good role playing and to explore this villain in their campaign.
I mean, if you wind up having to travel together, here Avengers got to be able to teleport wherever he wants, super powerful, magical. But, if you're talking about a lower level game or you're talking about where that amount of transportation just isn't there, you really could have some serious role playing and get into, that whole thing. I think that could be awesome.
Yeah, well, and also, transportation aside, what if they can't just go do the thing right away?
Right.
So they're kind of stuck hanging out a little bit, cooling their jets together for a day or two or however long it takes,
right,
where they have to kind of work together, trust each other, and figure this stuff out. That wraps up episode 4, Valley of the Unicorn. Feel free to let us know what you learned from this episode of the D&D cartoon down in the comments below. But hey, I want to take a second to invite you to join the Nerdarchy adventuring party over on Patreon. Ted, you want to tell them what they can find over there?
Every month, we're creating products for both players and DMs alike.
Ted, don't forget, every month, our patrons are automatically entered into our monthly giveaways.
Well, that's true, Dave, but we also do weekly hangouts with our patrons, and those are just some of the benefits that we got.
So until next time,
stay nerdy.